not a whole lot of passion going on here. It's just an obligation. Understand what I'm saying? All right. What helps my passion for God grow? See, is there something inside of you yet that's burning that wants to know more? Is there something burning? You know, they say about the first 30 days of a new believer's life is like the most intense spiritually. Then it begins to go downhill from there. Why? Because sometimes I think we forget there's a whole lot more to it than the emotion. God is a God of emotions, but there's a whole lot more to it than just the high that we got at that moment. The high that we get in that exciting church service or worship service. It can be there every day, but we have to want it. Number two, we have to learn to live out of a passion for others. Here's a fun question. What would it mean if I loved someone as much as I love myself? What would it mean if I love someone else as much as I love myself? And I don't mean your spouse. You better love them more, man. But you know, the unlovables, the ones that we really don't want anything to do with. See, this has been hard for me. I've been a diehard Cleveland fan for many, many, many years. Back in the 80s, in the freezing cold, I was at those games and watching them get beat, you know, and have to love Brian and Harry. And, somebody came into the restaurant the other day, and restaurant, I'll tell you about that in a minute if you don't know about it. And they were all decked out in Pittsburgh stuff. And I said, I'm sorry, we have no tables for you today. Sorry, you're going to have to get somebody else because I'm not doing it. The guy just kind of looked at me like, really? I go, yeah. And I walked away. And he was like, just kind of stood there like, what? And I came back and said, I'm sorry. Boss says I have to seat you, so come on. No, I'm just messing. Okay. I'm not, no, I'm talking, there are people, they're hard to love. And they work hard at being hard to love. Some of you go, yes, I know exactly who you're preaching about. They should be here hearing this today, Pastor Don. And then for some of us, we may be that person. I don't know. But what would it take? See, here's a question. When was the last time it cost me something to love someone else? And not just money. When was the last time it cost me something to love someone else? I want to show you some slides here. Hopefully it'll run. Is it freezing? There we go. See that little circle area up there? It's in Peru. Then it says Iquitos. That's a little bigger shot of the whole thing. How many's ever seen the movie Through Gates of Splendor or At the End of the Spear? Well, this is very similar. See that boat right there? In about 2 months, my son and I are going to be on that boat. And then we'll probably be on some that look just like that. Because, see, this is up in the Amazon, in the jungles. We're going to be visiting people that live just like that. There's a few more here. I'll show you what they look like. Oh, we're going to be living like this for 2 weeks in tents. All right? No nice hotel here. And these are some of the people we're actually going to be ministering to. This is one of about 200 villages. That particular picture is the only Christian village of this tribe. I can't even pronounce the name. I don't know. Corey can say it. I can't say it yet. But this is how these people live. That's what they looked like about 10 years ago. Most of them. And some of them might still do. Okay? That right there is a shaman. He's a leader of one of the tribes. Witch doctor. Another translation for that whole thing. But this is how they get around. This is how they live. And I'm going to have the opportunity, as with Pat Fortunato and Zach Fortunato, my son Corey and myself, we're going to go with that guy right there. He's a doctor, and we're going down doing medical clinics. And we're going to be giving these kids medical aid and these people. Right now in this tribe, the oldest living member of the tribe that they know of is only 47 years old. They're dying of very simple things. Simple diseases. I love this picture because she's holding a pet sloth. I keep teasing my kids I'm going to bring something like that home. But you see there in the corners, I mean, this is how they live. They're big leaf shacks and all this kind of stuff. There's our bathtub in the Amazon. I heard somebody go, ooh. But anyway, it's a complete unreached people group. Less than 2% Christian. Poverty and health care issues. Unique culture and language. Complete isolation. Some of these people I'm learning are going literally into Colombia to get away from some different things. But this is costing us something. And now some of you are aware, Pat actually got to go on this trip 2 years ago. And I told him, I said, man, if you ever get to go again, let me know. I'd love to go with you. And so he told me at the end of the summer, hey, that trip's coming around. You want to go? I said, you bet. So I go home and I talked to my wife about it. And I said, hey, you know, this whole thing, and I really want to go. I just, you know, this is so far beyond anything I've ever done in my ministry. I want to go. And she goes, wouldn't it be cool if Corey could go with you? I said, yeah, I know. I've been thinking the same thing, but I don't think he'll be able to. It probably wasn't an hour or so later, Pat calls me and goes, hey, by the way, I'm thinking of taking Zach. Does Corey want to go with you? So we talked about it. We did some checking with the schools because he's going to miss a couple weeks of school and all these things. And the school's like, no problem. We'll work it out. And we said, all right, we're going to go do this thing. So I told him, he's all, yeah, we got to do this. And then the price tag came. Oh, wow, okay. You know, it's still staggering. But I said, you know what? There's something inside of me. I got to do this. I don't know why. I got to do this. And so I told my wife, I said, I'm going to look at talking about maybe getting a part-time job. And I have a really good friend who's the manager of Don Pablo's up in the Strip. He's the general manager. And I was telling him about it when we were still thinking about if we were going to do it. And he says, well, hey, because if you need something, come on over. So you may or may not know, I've been working at Don Pablo's as a host. And people come in, hi, how many are in your party today? Well, come on back. We got a table, all that whole thing. Just being nice to people. That's what it's been. I put in over 11 hours yesterday. I'm looking at everything saying, man, I've only got so much time. We got shots this week, Corey and I did. We had to go get typhoid and yellow fever. Woohoo! Let me tell you, man, my arm was killing me for about 2 days. It was so painful. I couldn't believe it. Got the hepatitis A and B. That was easy. But this other stuff, and it's still sore, okay? Not only is this costing us something financially, because it is. It's a very expensive trip. We're $7,000, give or take, for this thing. But it's also, how big is the commitment? Corey's only 14. He can't go out and pick up a part-time job. So there's things that he's doing. I went and did that. We've been writing letters, and there's been people who have been supporting us. And if you're interested in maybe helping us out, because I know we've got another trip to Argentina and everything. But, see me after service, and I'll let you know how you might be able to help us. But it's one of these things because, see, not only is it learning a passion for others, but it goes right into my next point, making disciples. See, I have to be real honest. Even though I've done this youth thing for a long time, there are 4 people that God has said, that's your primary obligation. My first one is Corey. My second one is Bryce. Then comes Alexia, then Laurel. All right? See, I can spend all my life trying to reach everybody else's kids and watch mine go to hell. That ain't going to work very well when it's all said and done. And I have to be real honest. I know a lot of pastors, that's what they did. They were so focused on their ministry and building their church. And all the while, their kids were all messed up. See, I have to make disciples of my own children. And so that's one of the things. When I look at this whole thing, I'm able to take Corey on this trip. Because, see, first of all, it's not just talking about it. Like I said, I can stand here all day long. We got to go change the world. We got to make disciples. And then go home and, well, that was a good sermon. Hopefully somebody will listen to it. See, one of the things that we have to look at is, what does my life advertise? As a pastor, we can stand here all day long, say all the right things, and then do absolutely none of it the rest of the week. I can tell you need to pray, you need to read your Bible, you need to share your faith, and if I don't do it, you know what? I'm what they say in 1 Corinthians. I'm a bunch of noise. It's my translation. 1 Corinthians 13, chapter 1. Clanging cymbals, you know. That's all it is. See, here's a question that we have to answer. Do I know more or do I obey more? Which is going to help my kids? Seeing dad and mom do it? Or just hearing mom and dad talk about it all the time? My kids have been learning finances a little bit. And one day, one of my kids came and they asked me, I said, hey, Dad, are we doing okay financially? First of all, I was shocked by wow, what are you going to do about it? You know, like you're going to move out to help? What, you know? Well, you and Mom seem to be talking about it a lot. And I said, no, everything's okay. I said, Mom and I are working on our finances. We're trying to take care of debt and get rid of some debt and you know, things that happen, and you know, some of it you can't avoid and some of it it's because you're stupid and it happens to all of us, but you know, we're trying to get rid of all of the debt that we possibly can. So we've been very, very focused on where we're spending our money. Oh, yeah, so it's okay. You're not going to lose. We're not going to like start cutting meals out or anything. You know, it's all good. You know, now they start to think we're becoming Amish because we don't turn the thermostat up above 64 in the house. But, you know, it's okay. You know, we've been that way forever. But, you know, I'm trying to help them learn some simple financial principles through this. See, it's all the same thing. But do I obey what God's word says more, or do I just know it all up here? You know, and I hear, you know, whenever there's something spiritual and religious that happens in the world, I love how they always go to the experts at like Harvard Theological Seminary. And you listen to these guys, and they make statements, you're like going, how can you even go to sleep at night teaching theology when you don't even believe what you teach? Well, Laura Jo and I got married. We got married back in her hometown, whopping 700 people on a good day. 5 churches, 700 people. And we got married in the biggest church, which is the church she grew up in, which was the Lutheran church. And we go and we have to meet with the pastor and everything. And he goes, okay, well, here are the songs you're allowed to do. And here's this. And here's how I do my sermon. And do it. I go, whoa, time out, dude. You're not doing the wedding. I'm not? No. Well, who is? My father's performing the wedding. Was he a Lutheran minister? No. Now, I have to admit, I was young. Didn't pay a lot of attention to things I said. In my head, it's saying, yeah, and he's saved. You know, because this guy is all about, you know, well, we just, you know. There was no relationship with God. I'm just telling you that right now. He didn't last very long there, but, you know, it was a job. Okay, when I go to Don Pablo's, it's a job. I have no vested interest in it. You come in, I get you to eat food, I get a cut of tips. That really, outside of that, that's it. Okay? And those tips help me pay for this trip. So really, I have no vested interest in it. This is no long-term career move for me. You know? But we're going through it. Well, he's not allowed to serve communion. Fine, we just won't do it then. Because the last thing I want is some guy who doesn't even believe what he's doing to me one of the most sacred spiritual practices that we have. See, do I know more or do I obey more? He knew a lot about the Bible. But there wasn't much obedience there.